Welcome to this week's episode of the Sports Beat KC podcast. I'm Chiefs beat writer Brooke Pryor, and today we've got a recap of our Facebook Live from Wednesday afternoon, followed by my interview with 49ers beat writer Chris Biderman from the Sacramento Bee. Enjoy! We are here in one of the conference rooms at the Chiefs facility right next to Arrowhead Stadium. We've got four of us with us today. We've got Sam Mellinger on my left. Got Lynn Worthy on my other side, and then all the way down here we have Vahe Gregorian. So we're going to chat. We haven't talked to you guys since Sunday night. I hope you didn't miss us too much. We're going to chat about, well, I think first things first, Patrick Mahomes wins AFC Offensive Player of the Week. There's been two games, two AFC Offensive Player of the Week awards, and both of them have gone to Patrick Mahomes. So pretty impressive. Sam, what's your take on Young? I'm just going to leave it as open-ended as possible. You take this in whatever direction you would like to go.
Kid's pretty good. He was, that was one of those, in Pittsburgh, I thought, watching it again was even better than watching live. He overthrew Sammy Watkins, would have been a 40-yard touchdown. They ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive anyway. Overthrew Tyreek Hill on what could have been a 99-yard touchdown. Other than that, he was pretty much damn perfect.
It's not after dark and we're dropping curse words, but...
It was, if you think that's a cuss word,
okay,
welcome to the beat.
I'm trying to sanitize it for our viewers. Okay, they might be at work. We don't know what their workplace culture is like.
I know I wrote about this, but whatever. So, I thought that Pittsburgh was a much more telling, steep challenge for Mahomes and the offense than San Diego, than Los Angeles Chargers. Just a lot of blitzes, a lot of different looks, a lot of up here and not just right here. You know what I mean? And he passed that with flying colors. It was incredible. And Vahe, I think you can speak to this too, right? It's not just we're talking about him. We're talking about the quarterback. But the offensive line was great. The offensive line communicated. They passed off blocks. That's a huge part of this zone. Defending the zone blitz too. That should get some credit as well, but Patrick was obviously incredible.
Yeah, Vahe, let's talk about the offensive line.
There's about six things going on here, right, with this. And for one thing, let's just say, at least this time, this is a legitimate AFC Player of the Week thing after Patrick screwed Tyreek Hill last week. Wow. Did I say that?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Do you guys see the light outside? We can't say all these words.
All right. And that wasn't even Patrick's fault after voters messed over Tyreek the week before. But it'd be interesting to see where Patrick would be in a vacuum, right? If he had a crummy line and not great talent around him and a mediocre offensive mind. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing exactly the opposite. I mean, everything is in place for this, including the apprenticeship last year. So to your point specifically, Brooke, about the line, I mean, just from everything you can see, the faith that was put in the line to run so many empties, the idea of going ahead and throwing 99 yards out of your end zone, although a safety the next play.
On a run.
But the key runs to seal out the game, that was a little belief in the line too. And one of the things that people have pointed out and talked to, and this is sort of true, there's a little bit of a long-term continuity thing going on with this line, that 3-4 of these guys have played together for 3, 4, 5 years. And,
yeah.
I got talking to some guys in the locker room today about what that means, and we'll try to put that into story form here soon.
That's a good point.
It's kind of funny if you think about just, what was that, the beginning of preseason. Remember, 8 plays into preseason with the first offense, the sky was falling, the line wasn't going to protect Mahomes. Remember that? That was that Atlanta? Or I'm trying to remember which game was that?
Wasn't that home that he got hit so many times?
Oh, it was Houston. That's right.
Yeah, it was the first game.
It was Houston without J.J. Watt and without Clowney, and it was, oh man, this line's not going to protect him. He's going to be battered, and it means nothing right now.
Yeah, it's true. It just like the line. What was the thing? And you were most alert to it, I think, Lynn, with the line that was being used about the variables in Patrick's game. What was it that early on mistakes he might make? And you
the intestinal fortitude. That
one? And you put the INT in intestinal fortitude.
And we have yet to see that. We have yet to see that in the actual game now. Yeah, but that whole thing about testing things out, and you want to see these things in preseason and camp, and
seems like that was a good idea.
Now he's on pace for 80 touchdowns and no interceptions. So
pace might get disrupted.
Perhaps.
It might.
Perhaps.
Don't put money on 80? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know. You hold me
I'm gonna
accountable
take
for
the
everything
under.
I say. So I'll just back off.
We'll take the under on that. And by the way, we'll still talk offense, but we've had like 3 questions people would like to know about Eric Berry. So let's just go ahead and address the not elephant in the room because we talk about it every day.
2 questions. Is he improving?
Resounding
every
yes.
day.
Yes.
Every
Yes.
day, baby. Every day.
However,
Is
30,
he
40 days in a row.
Playing and or practicing?
No.
No.
He is not. Andy Reid said today, he's not practicing. He's getting better, though.
Getting better.
And we saw him out on the field today, walking around with the hat on. I saw him yesterday at Central Middle School, where he was there to make vision boards with the kids, walking around fine. No, I did not ask him if he was going to play on Sunday. No, I did not bribe a kid to ask him if he was going to play on Sunday.
Would have
because
been cold.
I try to have some kind of morals. Are we talking cold, like in the
Morals or
Tyreek
just
sense?
dignity? Which
Well,
one are you working on?
I've already lost one of them. So, maybe both. But when you say cold, do you mean like Tyreek?
Cool is what I meant.
Okay.
I did.
So that's like the Tyreek phrase of cold.
Yeah.
Like the kids
Oh,
say.
by the way, I know we're all over the map, but let us not go too much farther into this without you sharing Tyreek's quote about the cheetah on the 49ers. But I digress.
Dueling cheetahs.
We'll
yes.
get there. We're mapping out the ship. We're giving you a taste of what you'll see soon. But yeah, so Eric Berry not practicing. I don't think he'll play Sunday.
A quick thought. This I don't think this exactly speaks to it, but one of the jokes we were sort of passing around that actually rings true is how much better can you get without getting better? Because it's not been literally every day to day, every day, but it has been a good 27, 28 days since that has been the expression of the day about Eric Berry.
Well, it's 35 days. It was 35 days on Sunday since he had last practiced or played, I believe. I might be off a day or 2. But yeah, you might want to double check me on that. But how bad was he 35 days ago?
That's the real
If
question.
he just had 35 days of steady improvement.
It's,
And he was that whole walking around thing. I mean, you saw it, but even in training camp at St.
yeah.
Joe, he was walking around. You know,
I've
like,
never
there's
seen
something
him
else
limp
going
once.
on. Yeah.
There's definitely like something there's something under that shoe that we're not seeing, I guess, because I have no other answers for it. I mean, if a heel is as sore as it sounds, why would they have him walking around the practice? Why would they have him at events? It is very puzzling. So
I could say something doesn't add up, right? That's pretty legit.
I think that's fair.
It's weird.
Because the thing that I thought was really interesting, though, I think it was this time last week talking with Andy Reid, and he said, specifically they're waiting for the Achilles area to settle down.
Yeah.
So are they just calling it a sore heel, but there's really like some Achilles damage done that they don't want to disclose officially? I don't know, but that whole day-to-day thing, we should have been week to week a month ago, so that maybe we wouldn't be asking literally every day, and then hearing that he is literally day to day. And there's just
Chiefs have not had a star defensive player on a bizarre day-to-day injury that stretches into months in like a year, 2 years?
At least
since Justin
it goes all the way
Houston's
back
knee.
to at least then.
Right. It's a weird situation, man.
It is weird. And look, what we don't know, and presumably we'll know as a point of hindsight later, is to what degree it's actual obfuscation for some reason, or if it's really just it's we just can't quite tell. We think he's ready any day now to practice.
What did you just drop on us there? Actual what?
It was the only word I could probe for.
The only word
gosh, it must be
I
touched
do
out
not
of that
hear.
brain.
I think
I
it's
just can't
less-
let that slide.
Pen
I think it's
guy over here.
less harsh than deception, right? But maybe it's the same concept.
It seems to me that we've. I went to a state school, so
Me too.
But what a state!
it seems to me every sign is they're waiting on him to say that he's ready, and that's not like some guys. You'd be like, oh, maybe he's soft, Like obviously that's not the case with this guy, right? But that's how it seems to me, or else this literally day-to-day thing, and because that would explain Andy talking the way he does about it. Because it seems like Andy's kind of confused, like getting better, not going to practice, whatever. It sounds like that Andy is a little bit confused as well, and that would explain that if they're basically waiting on Eric to say, "I'm ready,"
I think if it was another organization that, the Chiefs seem to be, pretty open with the updates. I mean, they bring a trainer out to tell you what's going on with guys. Like, if we're somewhere else, you maybe think, well, maybe they knew from the jump that it was going to be a while. They just didn't want to tell people and sort of keep people guessing. I don't really get that sense with these guys. I think it's, like you said, they're still trying to figure things out. Yeah. Like, they don't know, and it's, that's why it's day to day, because they're like, we might find out something more tomorrow and that changes it, but right now, we don't know.
Yeah. Well, while we're talking about injuries, I guess we should go ahead. Someone's asked about Chris Jones and what his situation is. Did Reed sound like the Chris Jones injury is something to be concerned about? Too early to tell. Well, we didn't think the Eric Berry injury was anything to worry about, and here we are 35 days later. But
and we always have a hard time interpreting this. I think Andy did it with the full,
Yeah.
But I sometimes that doesn't mean what we think it will mean. But I don't feel concerned that he's going to play. But
the tone of voice was very much, we're just being safe, he'll play. Like nobody asked him to clarify, but that's how it seemed. I mean, I'd expect this to be like a limited participant, at least by Friday.
Right.
And he'll play. He was really good on Sunday, too.
I didn't see any hints Sunday with him after the game, and certainly he spoke Sunday after the game.
Yeah.
And in the full Chris Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, so presumably he's all right-ish.
Yeah.
I'm with you guys. Well, we can hop back over to the offensive side and kind of get at what you were teasing earlier about Tyreek Hill.
Well, let me take that tease to me back to you, because you're the one who talked to Tyreek Hill.
We're just going to pass the ball back and forth on Tyreek Hill. So this all kind of comes about because the 49ers obviously opening, or will be I don't want to say sacrificial lamb at the season opener, but the way this team's playing, that's kind of what it feels like. But in any event, they're going to be the team coming in here week 3. There's a running back on the team, Matt Breida. His nickname is Breida the Cheetah, which, great, just rhyming. I love it. So I had the opportunity to talk to Tyreek Hill yesterday and asked him, you're the cheetah. Breida says he's the cheetah. Who's the real cheetah? And Tyreek just kind of paused, and he's like, well, I'm just going to say this. There's only one cheetah in the league, and he can run a 4.48 or whatever he runs, but he's not a cheetah, And it's just, that has taken off. And the best part of that interview, though, was that at the end I was like, well, are you going to, tell Breida that you're the cheetah? Which I just feel ridiculous saying like I'm reading a children's book. But I asked him if they were going to have words about it, and he said, no, I don't talk. I let my play do the talking. I like to outrun everybody and show them. But clearly he also talks before, maybe he won't say anything to Breida in person, but that was definitely a shot fired.
Well, my favorite part of that story is that you looked up Breida's combine, and he ran a 4.38.
Not slow.
And imagine being so fast that you can legitimately, factually call that guy slow.
Yeah.
And laugh at him for thinking
what was Tyreek's a 4.26?
4.24.
4.24.
At a West Alabama pro day, whatever. But still, I believe it.
Yeah, we've seen it.
He looks like a 4.24 guy.
Yeah. My second favorite part there is that how Tyreek will just embrace every challenge to the throne of speed. Anything that comes up remotely suggesting somebody's on a par with him is wow.
He's prouder of his speed than maybe any athlete in Kansas City is proud of any. Well, and he should be. He's faster than anybody is at any.
Did you see his shorts leaving the game? He was wearing cheetah print shorts after the Steelers game, which
always on brand.
That's impressive. But as somebody pointed out, neither one of them has gone to patent or gone to whatever you have to go to trademark patent to call themselves the cheetah, but he might want to get on that.
I think he might want to get on that, and in fact, I'm sort of surprised that he hasn't really. He's certainly...
He's got a cheetah T-shirt that he wears sometimes after games.
There's
that's not quite the same as
cheetah paraphernalia with him on it, right? In general.
Yeah.
But Ryan Fitzpatrick and Minka Fitzpatrick, Minka is trying to trademark Fitzmagic, but Ryan would like it because. Did you see what he wore on Sunday?
Yes, I did.
He's the real Fitzmagic.
I did.
But Minka's no, I'm going to scoop that up first illegally.
Is it?
So,
Is it weird that I don't know who Minka Fitzpatrick is?
I think he's the DB at Alabama, won the Jim Thorpe Award.
At first, I thought it was Ryan
weird.
Fitzpatrick's wife.
I
and
interviewed him
was
in a
like,
bathroom one time, so
Why are they at
don't
odds
forget
over
your
this?
first bathroom interview.
So
That's a weird sentence.
it's occurring to me that is Vahe the only other speed demon that Tyreek has acknowledged and respected? Because
Oh my gosh.
You know, I hadn't
think
thought
that's
about
right.
that, but I do believe I'm the only one who's treated as an equal.
You know
Gave you
what?
respect, yeah.
Which I kind of think was not so much respect as just laughable. Like just really taking it to me.
But you also didn't.
I think he wants to challenge you. You, Breida, and Tyreek pregame foot race. Everybody just run the 40 at Arrowhead.
I think part of the
I would get
respect,
a heavy
though.
pull on that first step, no
we
matter what.
have to get the Facebook Live started early for that. We got to broadcast that.
Clicks. We'll get the clicks.
Part of the respect is like not just like how everybody respects Vahe, but like you didn't go up there and be like, "Hey, Tyreek, I'm the cheetah." So anyway, about that, that's where Tyreek's
I didn't
defensiveness
challenge him from the start.
comes from. Right.
Deferred. Somehow thinking maybe he's faster.
Well, let's see. I just completely lost my train of thought. There was a comment in the Facebook comments about cookie deliveries for Chris Jones, and that's my guy. We talked once, and I've just decided. I hope he feels the same way.
We need to regenerate that video of you and Chris.
Of me eating.
You're sleuthing on just being a good reporter.
Sometimes you got to do it for journalism. Let's look at the offense a little bit more, though, because we saw, we saw last week, Sunday, how different the offense looked just from week to week, in the sense that Tyreek's super involved first week, pretty absent second week, if you can call 90 yards and a touchdown absent. How do we think it's going to look this week? How much more is it going to evolve going against the 49ers? Sam, you have any thoughts?
I haven't watched enough of their defense to know what's a potential weakness there. I know they've got some guys up front. Buckner's a stud. Elijah Lee's a stud. They got some guys that they can put pressure on. But I just keep thinking about what we saw on Sunday, and you can bring that pressure, but there's still going to be guys open downfield. And the thing that strikes me too is there were a lot of plays where, and again, the line did a good job, but there were a lot of plays where the blitz worked. Like the blitz, the guy got there on time, like what they should have reasonably expected with the blitz. It didn't matter because the ball was out. And the ball was out to an open receiver. And the ball was out to an open receiver who makes the first guy miss. That's a real problem. I know we keep saying it, but I don't know how you defend that other than my idea would just be overwhelm that offensive line and just rush just try to force him into a panic or something. And because, how about this? If you take some risks, if I'm the 49ers, let's do some risky blitzes. If we give up a touchdown, we might be doing that anyway. So let's just see if we can force a bad. It's kind of like how I feel like the Chiefs.
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
Probably going to give something up anyway.
Sort of what they did a little bit of in that second half. Yeah,
Yep.
The third quarter, fourth quarter. I mean, even that one of those third down stops was 3rd and 3 where he threw it incomplete to Switzer. I think was there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, there was a whole lot of room and not a whole lot of defenders there. So if that connects, then that might be a big play.
Yeah.
But they rolled the dice and brought pressure right in his face, brought a bunch of guys, and Big Ben throws it sort of. I mean, I think it was one of those things where there's a little bit of miscommunication. One saw one thing, one saw the other thing. So he stopped his route a little bit early, but. Then they're punting. You rolled the dice. It broke your way, and they're punting, and that ends up being at that point. It was a 7-point game, and it looked like nobody's defense was stopping anybody. But you like I say, you roll the dice, and you get a stop, give it back to your offense, and then all of a sudden that's 7-point lead turns into a little bit of a breathing room situation.
I guess I wonder. I'm sorry. I guess I wonder about how the 49 or how the Chiefs. That was your original thing, right? How the Chiefs are going to attack. I wonder if this is going to be. I thought this last week. But if this is going to be Kareem Hunt, if we're going to see more Kareem Hunt, more yards on the ground. But I'm sorry.
No, it's really sort of the same thing. Just a thought I had, and I'd be interested to know how you guys saw this. Look, every play has all its own possibilities, right? Different priorities, different reads. But I would submit that part of the game plan last week really was that Tyreek was going to be mostly decoy early, right? Or that they certainly weren't trying to get him the ball for a long time. And I bring that up just in the context of that's how diabolical Andy is, right? I mean, he will be thinking about okay, we've flashed this last week. Now we're going to show that we can go to any one of 6 guys. Now we're just going to go all Kelsey, or now we're really going Kareem Hunt. Yeah. I feel like that's part of, certainly in some way or another, by design, right? And that back to your point, I mean, so maybe suddenly it's just a Kareem Hunt kind of day.
Yeah. The first 2 targets were to Travis Kelce. That's not an accident. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know how much, like when the question being how much does it change, or how much do they change things this week? And I'm not sure that they really changed a whole lot as much as it was, they did some of the same things that are still tough to cover, and depending on how the defense reacts, then you just throw it to a different person, or something pops this time that doesn't pop. I mean, like just looking at for example, like that first touchdown to Kelsey. When I watched that and watched it again, the thing that jumped out at me, and I didn't see it live, was that's basically the play that they were talking about the week before, that they tried to get it to Kelsey and ended up going to Sherman. It was basically the same play, just a little bit different formation, different personnel. So instead of Sherman running the wheel route and Kelsey running up the seam and Kareem Hunt swinging, it was Tyreek Hill running up the sideline on the wheel. And so that whole, I guess really it was almost like Andy was like, we're going to get this to Kelsey one way. Because that was in practice.
Oh, they never respect that wheel.
Like they never, in practice, there was like, the guys, they never, they never could get the scout team to go over to, to the wheel route because it was, I guess probably because it was Sherman. Right. And then in the game, it happened the same way too, because it was Sherman, they didn't go to it, and then they throw it to Sherman, it's a touchdown. Well, you put Tyreek Hill there, they go over to it, and then, Pat
That's
just,
a great example.
Pat just threads the needle. I mean, because you watch it again, and the inside linebacker had his back turned, so, he's running the scramble, but, there's not a whole lot of space. Like, the guy over the top is maybe a couple yards away. The guy that he ran past, just the fact that he had his hips turned was enough for Pat to just, so it's not like they're necessarily rewriting the book of football. It's just like, when you have these guys, you could just change different guys in different spots and say, yeah, or run the same thing. You still can't cover it.
Yeah.
But I think that there is something to what if this is Kareem Hunt's week, because I think one of the things that has surprised me about this offense is just how, I don't want to say unproductive, but I guess how quiet he's been after the season that he had last year. And does it seem like it's more of a, by design that they're just not feeding him? Or does it look like the defenses have figured out what he's all about? Because after a breakout season like that, you kind of expect to see some of that, at least early on, and I feel like we really haven't.
I guess it's a combination of both, right? Although I can't remember his numbers after 2 games last year, but they were off the charts, right? And maybe his first 3-4 games, it was crazy. Actually, he probably had more yardage against the Patriots overall than he has in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
And chicken and egg on that, right? It sure seems like they've had different points of emphasis, though, for one reason or another, than him.
Well, if we're going to compare, like, quarterbacks, the biggest difference, like last year, Alex, he had the midseason slump. They all did. But there was a lot of, like, he had finally mastered all of the reads and the different options in a really thick playbook. And he was sort of directing the symphony a little bit. Like, ball goes here, ball goes here. With Patrick, he was supposed to be behind all that stuff. and apparently he's not, but he was supposed to be. But his strength, and it is showing up, is he's like part of the symphony. Like, like he can kind of create on his own. Like he can get the ball where it needs to be, and he was doing, again, like a beautiful job against those zone blitzes. But he can also, at times, you're going to do this after the snap. Like, I feel like post-snap, Alex would kind of like system overload, and it was, you just kind of run, and that was it. And like Pat, something happens that he's not expecting after the snap, he says, I'll just drift over here, then use my, like, howitzer, like, God-gifted arm. Like, there's just, like, there's no reason. And maybe if you're that talented, you just never panic, because you never...
Wonder what that's like.
I remember, like...
I'll never know.
This reminds me...
Facebook Live.
Well, this reminds me of this conversation I had, like, working on this story about Patrick that ran before the season with one of Patrick's best friends. And I was just, like, thinking, and I was like, okay, like, do you think that he plays the way he does and was able to take a chance playing football because he knew he had this 7-figure option, like a 7-figure fallback option, basically, to play baseball? Like, and it just makes sense to me that he would be able to, like, take more chances, both in how he plays and that he plays quarterback. It just makes logical sense to me. And it was Coleman Patterson, And he looks at me and he goes, I understand what you're saying, but I think he's like that because it's not because of baseball. It's just because he doesn't think he's ever going to fail. And he's been right.
Yeah.
So far he's
And
been
by the way,
right.
that seems to be the case. And what a line to walk without coming off as arrogant.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's just kind of an interesting twist on the whole thing. There's no part of him that comes off as arrogant.
No, I mean, in talking with him today, we asked him about what's it like to have more attention. You have, getting recognized in the city. You have all these people. You have these weekly awards. You have people on Twitter, and he's just kind of like, I'm just a homebody. I just, had the same routine. One, that's a big thing that I took away from Alex Smith is just sticking to the same routine. So on his birthday, he's watching film, has takeout for dinner, isn't going in I don't know where you pop bottles in KC, but surely there's a place, and that's not what he's doing. He's just kind of laying low, and I think that a lot of that there's just this quiet confidence about him that doesn't come off as being cocky because he hasn't failed yet, and he's been on teams that have failed, but he personally, I don't think has experienced a massive failure.
You're making me think of a different angle on this point, and you might have gotten into this with him today, but Sam would probably have the long view perspective on this. So, Mitch Morse was talking about this earlier today, that the way the city of Kansas City treats its athletes, that I think the suggestion was he can go out in public and not, be flooded. Actually, I really wonder that. Is he a different kind of guy than anything else that you can think of in some time in terms of how can he go out in public?
I think maybe what Mitch was saying with that, I wasn't there, but I think maybe what he was saying is an athlete is a bigger deal in Kansas City than he would be in Chicago or, just function of size. But I think there is something to the idea of, Pat or whoever can go to Capital, wherever you would eat if you had millions of dollars, can go to wherever and people be like, oh my God, that's fill in the blank, but they kind of keep their distance.
Right. I think that's exactly what he was saying. This was a good community for that, the way that they embrace athletes and respect them. You can be impressed that someone's there and not, run up to them please sign this, that kind of thing. So.
Eric Hosmer would be the guy. If you're asking for examples, Derek Thomas was a little bit before my time of doing this for a living, right? But Tony Gonzalez would probably be in that.
So it's been challenged before, of course.
Yeah, I mean, there's been stars, but I mean, he does have the chance to be the biggest star since George Brett.
Yeah.
Yeah, no pressure.
And George Brett chose to continue living here the rest of his life, so he was able to get on here.
And did not mind the occasional, that's George Brett. Yeah, that did not keep George out of the bars.
Well, I think we should probably talk about some defense and special teams before we run out of time here. But real quick, I would like to address something. Someone has asked if my laptop bling is the Golden Gate Bridge and that if I'm a mole for the 49ers. That is that's the Brooklyn Bridge because I love New York. Also, my name is Brooke. And Brooklyn, Brooklyn. I just called Lynn Brooke, so things are going really well. Brooke, Lynn. I've got some good stuff. I rep Oklahoma. It's my all-girls high school. MIPSO, abandoned Chapel Hill. Nope, just because, and explore more because I'm a basic white girl. And what else am I going to have on my laptop?
Oklahoma?
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I need some Kansas City. Something. I have a casual animals sticker that I think I'm going to put on there.
Yeah, you do need some KC.
I know.
A cheetah, maybe? You said the
animals? A cheetah right here. Now that we've gone over that, and you guys know that I'm not a mole for San Francisco, let's chat about, someone asked if we were surprised to see Terrence Smith on the field a lot. And I think that he did play quite a bit against the Steelers. They wanted that linebacker that could drop back into coverage. He looked pretty effective. Lynn, what did you think seeing him out there?
Well, I think at least some part of it, I'm not sure how to quantify it, was Ragland came out for a part with what they said was a stinger. But also, I think just the way Pittsburgh spread the field, I mean, the linebackers, or teams, at least in the first two games, have decided they're going to attack the linebackers with coverage. I mean, we saw it I was about to say San Diego, saw it with Los Angeles, saw it with Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh just went, at times went all out. It seems like they probably could have done even more, where they just went empty. They took Connor off the field, put the kid Switzer out there, and just said, okay, we're going to spread you as thin as we can and make you cover. And so I think, the Chiefs were sort of trying to figure out how they wanted to do that. You saw Hitchens out there sometimes. Sometimes Hitchens wasn't out there. You saw Terrence Smith out there. I mean, so just those empty looks with, multiple wide receivers. I think that's part of what got Smith on the field. Again, Ragland coming out. And I think the coverage thing is going to be something that they're going to have to deal with all season because teams are going to try to attack that and just try and make guys, guys who are traditionally known as run stuffers, Hitchens, Ragland, Houston, and Ford. We saw them dropping back probably more than anybody thought they wanted to see that. Make those guys, cover if they're going to be on the field.
Anybody else have any more thoughts on that?
No.
That was pretty thorough. That was really thorough. Well, Lynn, you're on such a roll. I got to ask you about another guy that you've spent some time getting to know and kind of analyzing his film. But Breland Speaks, a couple people in here were less than thrilled with how he's been doing. But from your perspective, is he living up to expectation, or is he kind of this being a slow build to him getting settled into this defense?
It's probably more of a slow build. I mean, he's getting time out there. Sometimes you'll see something you think is pretty encouraging, then you'll see times where it's like he sort of gets eaten up a little bit. And I mean, because he's the first pick that they had, probably people put some attention and focus on him. But if he stays where he's at, then it's probably not what we're hoping for. If he makes that steady improvement, then maybe people look at it differently. I also think that he's going to be a guy that moves around. I think we've already sort of got that sense. So where he eventually settles in, I think still remains to be seen. And maybe him moving around could, play into whether or not he has, makes those big gains, makes those strides. So I think there's still, he's one of those guys where it's still early, where we look at Pat and say, man, we didn't expect this early. I mean, I think Speak, especially being a rookie, ideally things are going to take a little time with him.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. Someone who is not new, new to the team, but not to the NFL, Orlando Scandrick. He had that one really bad holding call that, did it negate a touchdown or just negate?
Yeah, it negated a touchdown, and I do not know of any human being who has yet actually seen the offense, as they say, on that. I've never seen a replay that.
Oh, it's. I mean, I think.
Have you seen it? I've never.
It was tweeted out. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it wasn't super zoomed
it's
in.
On the,
but
it's on that all 22.
Yeah.
It's
the coach's film, so it's
a bad view.
And it's. I mean, you can't tell exactly how egregious it is, but I mean, and
is it
let me
in
know
the scrum?
No, it's downfield. It's downfield. Yeah, it's downfield.
And theoretically, the flag was thrown before all that stuff happened then, too?
Well,
I don't remember when the flag was thrown.
The flag was thrown a little late.
That was the thing that I didn't see on that, too, was when the flag was thrown. But from the high vantage point, it's one of those ones where it's like you can't exactly tell how egregious, but you can see that he's definitely got his hands on him when the guy tries to cut away from him and still,
Where Roethlisberger might have thrown it, right?
Yeah, it was a little bit of...
So it wasn't just an irrelevant action. Mm-hmm. Okay.
But it was interesting because I think we all saw that play, or didn't see the play, but we all, heard the result of him. Like, oh my gosh, this guy, like, he struggled the first week. Now this happens. Like, this secondary is still what in the world's going on. But Pro Football Focus came out and said that Scandrick spent 58 snaps in coverage against Pittsburgh, targeted 8 times, and only allowed 1 reception for 0 yards. So he actually had a pretty good afternoon. How do we feel about this defense, especially the secondary through 2 weeks? I mean, is there hope? Is it as bad as we thought it was during the preseason in week 1, or is there, some redeeming qualities?
Define hope.
Well,
they have a really good offense. Is the hope?
I mean, I think that Scandrick is a guy that, like one of those, like, watch the game again better than you thought live, at least to me. He was matched up against Antonio Brown a lot, and it stayed with him like more than you would have expected. And that's not like a backhanded compliment, like more than you would expect most any cornerback to stay with. And look, Antonio Brown may have wanted out. He may have wished he was playing on the other team for some of that, but still,
that's what triggered this week.
That is not Orlando Scandrick's problem. I think they can get to, if they were 32 last year, like
30.
Yeah, like high. What would you say? Low 20s, like some. I don't know. They need Eric Berry to continue to improve, and maybe take something not yet approved by the FDA, They need like D Ford to continue. D Ford's playing really well. I'm going to write about him. He's playing really well. They need Justin Houston to get a little bit more of his mojo. Chris Jones is a star and playing like a star. That needs to continue. I mean, they've got some pieces that they can be like sort of not good, but decent enough for the number one offense in the league to win some games.
Fuller's been everything we thought he would be, I think. Unless I'm
He's been good.
missed some glaring
Gave up a
things.
touchdown, but it was like
But
pretty
he's there,
good
right?
coverage.
I mean,
yeah.
and that sometimes that's all you can expect. I wasn't particularly cognizant of what kind of game Ron Parker had, but I do believe it's reasonable to assume that with a couple weeks of actually playing, Ron will be, in pretty good form. It's sort of a steady, unspectacular, nice moments guy, and certainly a plus. I think Ron Parker is. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think Ron's a plus. So if you get that, and if Skandrick turns out to be a guy that can typically stay with an Antonio Brown, well, you got some competence opportunity there.
One thing that's a little bit frustrating, I'm wondering like what you think about this, is you're just talking about Breland Speaks. I get that Breland Speaks is a better run defender, but Tano Passanio should be playing more than Breland Speaks, not the other way around, at least to me. It seems like more of a pass rusher, more of a presence.
Well, that sort of ties into what I was going to ask you was, so you're talking about what you think that secondary can be, and I'm wondering, does that change if we talk about the pass rush? Like we didn't see a lot of it throughout that game, and as we said earlier, we feel like maybe they needed to take some more risks. So if they become a defense that has to take risks, has to send guys, I mean, isn't that almost just inevitable that those guys on the outside are going to get exposed more? I mean, if that's what you have to do to get pass rush.
Totally, but I think what has to change is like maybe the perspective of how you view the defense, where it's not how many points they give up, but it's how many plays they make. In the second half against Pittsburgh, they gave up a touchdown on Pittsburgh's first drive, right? And then 3 straight punts. And to me, like that's where that defense can win. Like, the Chiefs are not going to win if they only scored 24 points. Like that, most times like that's not going to work. But if they get into, one of these back and forth games like they've been in the first 2 weeks, and the defense just creates a turnover, which they really haven't done. They had the special teams, and then the Ron Parker diving interception. There was a nice play against San Diego, and that's it, right? No turnovers against the Steelers, unless I'm forgetting somebody.
No,
I think
the one that they could have had was wiped away, the penalty.
Yeah. So it's, to me, it's just about like how many plays they make on the other side. Like they should be swinging hard, and if a blitz means that whoever, that George Kittle gets open down the seam on Sunday, that should be okay. If it means that the other time that you blitzed, you got a strip sack or you got something like that, that's a win to me.
I'm with you guys. Well,
Pardon me, I got to go to a conference
Well, before
call.
Vahe jumps off, because I think we should cut this short. Well, not short, but wrap it up soon. Sorry, I just completely nailed you down. Go ahead and give us your score prediction, then you can scoot
She
out.
said, not so fast.
Not so fast, my friend.
This is
Always wanted to
even
be
more
close
off the
to.
cuff than my usual, just completely guessing thing. So let's say 34-24 Chiefs.
All right, I'm marking you down.
It was pretty close last week. I had the Chiefs winning by 3, except it was like 20 points fewer for each team. So you decide.
All right, well...
No, I had them losing. Sorry, I made that up. I did have them losing.
Revisionist history. Lynn, what you got?
So I'm doing a score now?
Yeah,
let's
we're gonna... I
see.
just want to keep you guys on your toes,
Let's
so...
see. Considering the role they're on, we'll pick the Chiefs, and I'm trying to think what's a good number here. We'll do the old Patrick Mahomes. Let's pick a number game here. Let's see. 4 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns. Let's give them 48 this time out. So 48 to 24. We'll give them that.
I like it. Sam, what you got?
38-27. We're kind of picking the same scores here. But.
Yeah, I have 38-26 written down. So, and I literally wrote that down before that number came out of your mouth. Thank you. It's right there, everyone. So, any final thoughts that we want to get to before we sign off for good?
Well, just
this week, we're coming back.
real quickly, I think that we've just been talking a lot about the defense. One thing to keep in mind, not just like the big context, like this is sort of like football's version of the steroid era, right? Like all the numbers that are being put up across the league. So keep that in mind when you think about the defense. But also, they just played 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks on the road, shootouts, all that stuff. Like I think we might get a little bit more of realistic's not the right word, but just more context of what this defense actually is against the 49ers are good. Like they're a fine team. Garoppolo could be a good quarterback in the league, but my point is like not against a team that was in the top 5 in offense last year, and maybe more of an idea of what the defense is after this game.
I did want to ask a question that I'm actually going to pass off as my question, but it's from a Facebook Live person.
Thief.
Yeah, sorry everybody.
Serena, I like that.
I'm just going to read.
That's exactly where that was in my head from.
Sorry. Hopefully I don't get suspended for any matches or anything. But how much is the offense's speed hurting this defense? We've heard, I think Bob Sutton said it, I think Andy Reid said it, the offense is going so fast, they're putting the defense back out there. Is it the offense is going too fast, or is it the defense needs to get a few more stops faster so that way they're not out there for such a long amount of time?
Well, it does work together, right? I thought that was a problem more in LA against the Chargers than last week, in part because of the heat. Although it wasn't cool.
Yeah, it wasn't. I was gonna say
In the press box,
particularly
yeah,
in the fourth
outside.
quarter, though.
But
right?
there was the difference in that game to me, I guess what I'm trying to say is that it was so many plays early that the defense is on that I think it did wear them out late. At least on Sunday it was kind of spread out a little bit more, I guess.
I guess I'd sort of look at it as not the exact opposite, but more that the late plays were the ones where it really showed up just because they were on the field so much in the fourth quarter. Whereas this past week, they actually ran the ball and they actually.
That's what I mean. Yeah, they got worn down in LA. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
right?
yeah. But I'm not sure if it was so much the early part that showed up late, or if it was just the fact that the offense didn't do anything late, and so then the defense was out there, in LA, as opposed to this past week where the offense actually, it was pretty close, but they controlled time of possession in the fourth quarter, ran the ball a little bit, and that was one of the things that I talked to some of the guys after the game, the line and everything about just their ability to run it when they had to, which is one of the things that we were talking about the running game earlier. So I think I talked to Sherman, Schwartz, and Morse, and Sherman talked about they didn't really care if it was passing or running in terms of the first part of the game, where the points are coming from. It's just a matter of being able to be productive. But what they did care about was being able to run it when they had to, which was late in the game, which they did a lot better. They didn't put up big numbers, but they did a lot better in that fourth quarter than they did against the Chargers. And just the idea of the running game, being serviceable enough, for them to be able to, when they have to, control the clock. And actually, this is sort of a sidetrack here, but just Schwartz was it was sort of something I never thought about when I asked him about the running game, because I did ask, so where are you guys at with the running game? Because we haven't really seen a whole lot of it. And Schwartz was like, well, the RPOs, he feels like, are sort of part of the running game, because, for them, it's a running play. Like, when it's called a running play, just Pat has the option to, to be able to throw it. So it was just another thing that sort of, he mentioned that I never really thought of. But, for them, they don't really think that the running game is maybe as far behind as maybe outside looking at numbers we do. They don't think it's where they want it to be, obviously, but it's it's not that far behind in their minds, at least it sounds like.
So you want
They
that
were
to
good
count
on
as your...
Sunday.
Huh?
They really were good on Sunday,
Yeah.
I think.
You have any other final thoughts?
Yeah, that's good.
You have any other final thoughts? Cool. Well, in the interest of time, I have no more thoughts for right now, but we will be back on Sunday with some more thoughts post-game after the 49ers play the Chiefs at Arrowhead. Also, look out for the second half of our podcast that will have my interview with 49ers beat writer Chris Biderman for the Sacramento Bee, previewing a little bit more of the specifics of the 49ers, so stay tuned for that.
Hey, it's Blair Kirchhoff, and if you're listening to this, you love Kansas City sports, whether it's the Chiefs, Royals, Sporting, Mizzou, KU, or K-State. And no one covers these teams like the Kansas City Star. If you currently subscribe to the paper or have a digital subscription, thank you for your support. And if you don't, here's a great offer. It's called Sports Pass. Unlimited digital access to every sports story and video on kansascity.com. And it's just $30 for the first year. It's the best sports value in town, just 8 cents a day or $2.50 a month. You can't beat that. Subscribe now at kansascity.com/sportspass.
Welcome back. I'm Brooke Pryor, Chiefs beat writer, and on the phone with me is Chris Biderman, the 49ers beat writer for the Sacramento Bee. Chris, did I pronounce your name right? I just realized I did not ask, and I just kind of went with my gut.
No, you know what? That happens all the time. It's actually Biderman. There's kind of a long story behind it, but I totally understand because nowhere in English does an I make a long E sound. So yeah, it's Biderman, but no problem at all.
Okay, well, I mean, it's kind of in the theme of everybody's name's just been mispronounced. Chrissy Teigen, Tyrod Taylor. I mean, just you're in a pretty good club.
Yeah, no, I'd love to be associated with those people.
Who wouldn't? Well, I'm sure as much as people would love to hear us talk about name pronunciations and everything else, we're actually here to talk about football today, specifically the 49ers Chiefs game this weekend. Chiefs are opening up finally back at home with the 49ers. They've been on the road for 2 weeks. There's been a Taylor Swift concert, a Royals game, so it's kind of delayed their return home. But when they finally get there, they will meet the 1-1 49ers coming off a win against Detroit, although I was reading some of your coverage, and it seemed like the general consensus was this win kind of felt more like a loss. So coming off that, I mean, where do the 49ers kind of stand going into week 3?
Well, in their season opener against Minnesota, one of the best teams in the NFC, the Niners turned the ball over 4 times. They went 1 of 4 in the red zone, and they ended up only losing by 8 points. So I think they sort of came out of that game with some optimism and positivity, thinking that the game was there for them if they just cleaned up some of the mistakes. And they're a young team. And then coming home against Detroit in week 2, a team that was beaten pretty badly on their home field in that Monday night opener against the Jets and a rookie quarterback in Sam Darnold. I think a lot of people, including myself, were expecting a pretty easy win for the 49ers coming back, just based on the way Jimmy Garoppolo played at the end of last season. And he's undefeated at Levi Stadium. And, it looked like for 3 quarters that was going to play out. The 49ers ended up taking a 17-point lead. And then things just kind of fell apart in the fourth quarter. They have some injuries in the secondary. Akella Witherspoon, a cornerback, was dealing with an ankle injury. And Matthew Stafford just picked on him over and over again until eventually the 49ers just took Witherspoon out of the game. Richard Sherman was solid on the other side, but the 49ers, they nearly blew a 17-point lead. Jimmy Garoppolo was intercepted just at the 2-minute warning. And the Lions returned it to the 7-yard line, but the play was negated because of a penalty, a holding call before the pass in the secondary on the complete opposite side of the field that had no bearing on the play. So the 49ers come out of that win thinking that they're incredibly lucky to escape with the win, just given the way they played. And they didn't finish very strong. And you look at the way Matt Stafford played, he threw 4 picks in week 1, but he threw 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and for 347 yards on Sunday. So going against Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs offense right now, it seems like it's going to be a daunting task. And like you mentioned, it sounds like it's going to be a pretty explosive atmosphere in Kansas City for that home opener.
Yeah, I mean, and that's actually perfect because I wanted to talk to you about the defense, and I read where Richard Sherman said he feels like he's back to his old self. Obviously, he was a force when he was with Seattle, now in a different system. How is he fitting in? I mean, is he kind of going to be the biggest threat that Patrick Mahomes has to worry about on Sunday?
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, the 49ers, the big appeal for Sherman was that, he provided the upgrade at cornerback they needed, and they run this very similar defense to what he's familiar with in Seattle. So far, Sherman's allowed just 1 catch in 99 pass coverage snaps, and that's from Pro Football Focus, which is first in the NFL. We saw early in training camp Sherman coming back from that Achilles tear, obviously. He got burned on one of his first reps in a video that kind of went viral in an individual drill against Marquise Goodwin, who's one of the fastest receivers in the league. And you wonder how he matches up with somebody like Tyreek Hill. I know speed isn't his game. Sherman's more about his knowledge of opponent schemes and their route concepts and positioning within the 49ers, sort of zone coverage and their cover 3 schemes that they like to play. It'll be very interesting to see how he matches up against, arguably the fastest receiver in the league in Tyreek Hill. So Sherman hasn't really been tested yet. We know he's savvy. We know he's smart. But we haven't seen anybody go at him yet, and we don't necessarily know if that's because he's playing at an ultra high level, or if teams are just going the other way because they feel like they have an advantage against Ahkello Witherspoon. So I think that Sunday's game is going to be really telling in terms of where Richard Sherman's at. He turned 30 in the spring. He had surgery on both his Achilles. He had bone spurs removed from the other one, his left side, after rupturing his right Achilles. And so he says he feels great. He says he's playing at his typical high level. He hasn't been tested yet, but I'm definitely curious to see if that changes Sunday, just given the fact that the Chiefs, are so athletic and so fast that they might present a physical matchup that the 49ers haven't seen yet.
And then the other side, Witherspoon played for 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter he was benched in favor of Jimmy Ward. How is that other position shaking out for next week? Do you expect to see Witherspoon starting out there, or do you think there's a possibility that Ward could be the starter?
I think it comes down to Witherspoon's health, and we're not going to know until probably Friday or maybe even Sunday morning. Witherspoon practiced last week, but he was limited with an ankle injury that he suffered in week 1, and it clearly impacted the way he played on Sunday, I thought. The 49ers came into the year thinking Witherspoon had the potential to be a very high-level starter. He was a third-round pick last year who wound up playing himself into the starting lineup midway through the season and played pretty well as a rookie, and then bringing in Richard Sherman to play on the other side, that it seemed like the 49ers were in a pretty good spot at cornerback. But with Sherman playing well, perhaps better than expected, or at least with other teams not targeting his side of the field at all, Witherspoon has been the one who really needs to step up his game because he's been targeted so much. So if he's going to deal with an ankle injury, the 49ers might decide to go with a healthy option in Jimmy Ward, who was a 2014 first-round pick, and he was a guy who initially played inside in the slot. He moved around a little bit last year. He began the season at free safety, and so they've been playing him at cornerback this offseason and training camp because Richard Sherman was coming back from injury. So they've been moving Ward around a lot, and he's not the typical tall, long-armed corner that teams that run this system typically employ. He's on the smaller side. He's 193 pounds, but when he's been on the field, he's been a good player. But there are some questions about his fit at cornerback in this particular system. But he might be a better matchup for Tyreek Hill, particularly if Witherspoon is dealing with an ankle injury.
Well, with the injuries, how, so the secondary seems like it may be a little in flux going into this week, but what about the pass rush? I mean, that was something that week 1, I'm blanking on who the Chiefs played, and it's only been 2 weeks, so that's a really good sign.
They played the Chargers, right?
Yes, they did. Another West Coast team. Against the Chargers, the Chargers were able to get some pressure on Patrick Mahomes, make him uncomfortable. He did better against the Steelers. How potent can the 49ers pass rush be?
Well, they've drafted a lot of defensive linemen over the last few years. DeForest Buckner, the 2016 first-round pick, he's second in the NFL right now with 3.5 sacks, and he had 2.5 in week 1 and added another one last week. He's a really good player, and the 49ers think he eventually could end up being one of those guys, in the conversation with some of the best players on defense in the entire league. He's sort of he's tall, he's 6'7", 6'8". He's got that Calais Campbell-like build, and he's very, very durable. Last year he only had 3 sacks, but he was among the league leaders in quarterback hits and pressures, according to Pro Football Focus. And now he's already passed last year's sack total in 2 games. His supporting cast, though, is a little bit of a question mark. Eric Armstead is a 2015 first-round pick, who's also been moved around, having, the 49ers used to play a 3-4. Now they play a 4-3. So Armstead's been shuffled inside and outside. Solomon Thomas, last year's 3rd overall pick, has had an interesting start to the season. He's played fewer than half the snaps in each of the first 2 games. And the 49ers tried him on the edge last year. At Stanford, I think it was pretty clear who was a better player on the inside. But right now, the 49ers feel like Buckner and Armstead are better players on the inside, and they've gone with more journeyman-type guys, Cassius Marsh and Ronald Blair on the edges. And you look at this 49ers defense, I think it's fair to say that the biggest need that they have, at some point, maybe going into next season, is edge rusher. And they had Elvis Dumervil last year, who led the team with 6.5 sacks, but they decided not to bring him back for whatever reason. Dumervil ended up retiring. I think he would have been willing to play this season if the 49ers were willing to give him a shot, but the team decided to go younger. They brought in Jeremiah Atauchu, a former second-round pick of the Chargers in the offseason, but he didn't end up making the team out of training camp, and he wound up signing with the New York Jets, and it was somewhat of a surprising move given the fact that, like I said, the 49ers don't really have a bona fide established edge rusher. So, pass rush is definitely an issue going into this game, I would say, or for the 49ers just in general. They have a young secondary, and I think the young secondary would play much better if the 49ers had a more consistent pass rush, and that definitely showed up late in that game Sunday. Matthew Stafford was given plenty of time to throw in the pocket and go through his reads and pick on the 49ers defense and make some big plays downfield. So the pass rush is definitely going to be an issue. But DeForest Buckner has, he's a guy who can get multiple sacks in one game. Eric Armstead has shown flashes. Solomon Thomas has a really high motor. He's a talented player, but I think the 49ers need more than what they've seen from him. He missed a sack on a crucial third down in Sunday's game, and before the Lions ended up scoring a touchdown in the first half. So he's going to be a guy who's under the microscope, because when you're the third overall pick and you're a defensive lineman, you're lumped into a group with, Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack and Von Miller and those other top 5 picks who are brought in to bother quarterbacks, and Solomon just hasn't been that guy yet.
Well, we'll get into some more predictions later, but Patrick Mahomes threw 6 touchdown passes against the Steelers. You think it's going to be more than that, less than that, about the same against the 49ers? If you can even throw more than 6 touchdowns in a game, because that just number in and of itself is insane.
Well, it is. It wouldn't surprise me, but I just don't know that I can predict anybody going into a game throwing 6 or more touchdown passes. I mean, if he threw 4 or 5 or even 6, it wouldn't surprise me, and I don't know that it would really surprise me if he throws 7. Just because the Niners defense doesn't look like it's in great shape right now. I know I talked about Witherspoon in the pass rush, but their strong safety, Jaquaski Tart, a former second-round pick and a guy who they like a lot, who's been playing pretty well over the last 2 years playing in this new defense. He suffered a shoulder injury in week 1 that he aggravated late last week against the Lions, and is going to be questionable going into the game. So we don't know what his status is, and the 49ers don't have much depth at safety right now, particularly if Jimmy Ward, who I mentioned was a former safety, if he has to play cornerback, then they're really thin in the secondary. So it'll be interesting to see how they shuffle those things around. But I will say I expect Patrick Mahomes to have another big game. I don't know that he'll throw 6 touchdown passes, but if he threw 4 or 5 and the Chiefs put up another 40-point performance, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah, me neither. Although, I mean, it is ludicrous to be like, oh yeah, he could definitely throw 6 more touchdowns in a game. No big deal. Now let's look at the other quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, last year's late season golden boy, it boy quarterback. Is he the same guy that he was last year? I mean, I saw he took 6 sacks in this game, had 3 interceptions the week before. Is the old Jimmy G still there?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he threw a couple of touchdown passes. They still scored 30 points. It could have been more against that Lions defense that actually played pretty well as the game wore on. It's a honeymoon period, and I think what happened late last year with the 49ers and Garoppolo is kind of similar to what Chiefs fans are going through with Patrick Mahomes right now. And, going into the first full season as a starter, you knew that obviously Garoppolo wasn't going to be undefeated forever. You knew that defenses were going to try to throw some different looks at him. And let's face it, last year, the 49ers didn't really play any meaningful games. Even that game against the Jaguars, where the 49ers put up, I think it was something like 44 points. The Jaguars clinched the division in the first quarter of that game because the Titans had lost to the Rams. So I can't imagine they were playing with a ton of urgency in that game. And the 49ers, they beat the Titans, but there wasn't a lot at stake in that game either. So now we're seeing how teams are approaching Garoppolo with a full offseason to prepare for him and Kyle Shanahan's offense. The 49ers are certainly missing some key players. Jerick McKinnon is a guy the running back they brought in, the former Viking, who was going to be a really important piece on offense. He suffered an Achilles tear an ACL tear a week before the regular season started during practice. And that's a pretty big deal for them because he was going to be a guy who was going to get a lot of targets in the passing game, but who was also a perfect fit for what the 49ers wanted to do in the running game. And Kyle Shanahan admitted before the season that he really had to overhaul his plan for the offense before the season started. So I think they're still sort of adjusting to that. The receivers, they've been missing Marquise Goodwin. They missed him last week. He almost had 1,000 yards last season. I know he wasn't particularly effective in Buffalo, mostly because of hamstring injuries and other things. But, he's a Tyreek Hill type player. He might not be as dynamic as an athlete, but I think him and Hill are just about the same speed. Goodwin, of course, was a former Olympic track star. He participated in the London Olympics in long jump, and he's the 49ers deep threat. He's the guy who really creates space by taking the top off the defense and allows the rest of the offense to work. And they've been missing him for most of the last 2 weeks. So that's been problematic too. So, we saw the Lions play a lot of man coverage. They were really grabby. They really, were physical with the 49ers receivers. And Garoppolo, held onto the ball for too long, and he was trying to wait out to see if guys could break away from coverage. And that comes a week after he threw 3 interceptions against the Vikings. So that was probably in his head. And these are just some of the week-to-week things that are going to happen to Garoppolo and the 49ers offense in his first full season as a starting quarterback. And he's still getting used to that. And I know the Chiefs' offense has been really good, but their defense hasn't been so much. So, if the 49ers have a shot on Sunday, it's going to be in a shootout, obviously, and maybe if they catch some breaks, maybe if they force some turnovers, they can keep it close. But I would expect the offense to look pretty good now that they're in their third game. They know what it's going to look like without Jerick McKinnon, and the offense got a pretty good wake up call against Detroit by nearly throwing that game away late.
So it sounds like we're going to have a Big 12 style game on Sunday, which means we should all settle in for like 4 hours of offense.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how much defense is going to be played on Sunday, but it should be an exciting game.
No kidding. Well, and you mentioned Marquise Goodwin did not play Sunday. I know the injury reports haven't come out this week yet, but how serious is his injury, and do you expect to see him on the field Sunday?
It's tough to say. He suffered a pretty nasty quad contusion. He was running across the field and then basically took a knee from a defensive lineman to his right quad, and he actually flipped.
Oh.
He almost did a complete 360, and then just imagine getting a Charlie horse going full speed from a 300-pound defensive lineman. So he was working out. He actually returned to that game in late, but he couldn't get back up to full speed, and obviously with those things, they get worse over time. So he sat out last week. But yeah, I honestly can't say until we see him at practice. We'll see him at practice tomorrow, or whether or not he's practicing, maybe he'll be on the side field. But yeah, he'll be an interesting guy to watch for sure. And we'll have to see. We'll have a better idea for sure on Wednesday, and then definitely Friday once the final status report comes out.
Well, the Chiefs have Tyreek Hill, whose Twitter handle is Cheetah, but then I was reading that Matt Breida, his nickname is the Cheetah, so we're going to have 2 cheetahs going at it on Sunday. Is Matt Breida as fast as Tyreek Hill? As far as cheetahs go, is one faster than the other? Do they have the same speed? Is this going to be like we're watching Animal Planet? How's this going to go?
Well, I would say Marquise Goodwin and Tyreek Hill are probably of pretty similar speed, and Matt Breida might be a hair behind him. He was an undrafted rookie out of Georgia Southern last year, and he wasn't invited to the scouting combine because he didn't have a great season because Georgia Southern went through a coaching change and an offensive shift, and I think he had close to 3,000 yards rushing the previous 2 seasons combined. And then at his pro day, he ran a 4.40 and jumped something like 43 inches and just sort of endeared himself to the 49ers because of his athleticism and his fit in an outside zone scheme. And, you saw it last week. He had that 66-yard run for a touchdown, and he got a great block from Pierre Garçon downfield. But he is a pretty explosive player, and right now, through 2 weeks, he leads the NFL in rushing because he ran for 138 yards last week on just 11 carries. And I know he had that 66-yard run, but he had a lot of other long runs against the Lions. And the 49ers really like what he brings to the table, but he's a little bit more limited than Jerick McKinnon was because McKinnon was such a valuable player out of the passing game. So Breida isn't quite the pass catcher, route runner as McKinnon, but he offers a similar dynamic in the running game, and I would expect his role to grow even further just given the fact he's been so productive and efficient in the early going.
Well, we saw last week against the Steelers, the Steelers seemed like they completely abandoned their run offense after the first quarter when they got in that 3-touchdown hole early. How committed do you think the 49ers will be to their rushing offense, knowing that Matt Breida, really talented, but if things go south quickly, could you see them adapting to a similar game plan and just trying to torch the Chiefs secondary?
Yeah, I think they would have to, but they obviously don't want that to happen. One thing Kyle Shanahan's offense does a lot is utilize play action, and obviously if they get in a big hole and they're down 3 touchdowns in the first half, play action isn't going to be very effective. So they're going to want to keep it close just so they can utilize play action and get their tight ends involved. With all that play action, what they love to do is have multiple tight ends on the field and their fullback Kyle Juszczyk, who's also a pretty good pass catcher. They like to, set things up starting with the running game and then build the foundation of their passing game off of that. So obviously their goal is to not fall in a big hole, but they do want to stay balanced offensively because of what the running game does for the passing game. But that being said, Kyle Shanahan loves to throw the ball. And last year they threw the ball at, I think, a 60 or 65% clip, and that was one of the highest rates in the league. So I wouldn't expect that to change a whole lot differently, but I will say they definitely want to keep play action as a part of the game plan.
All right, well, we've covered just about everything. You had one prediction earlier about Patrick Mahomes' touchdown passes, so now let's go ahead and give, your prediction for the game and how you think the score is going to get that way.
I haven't totally thought about it. I guess the question is whether or not the Chiefs get back to 40 points. I'll say 38-24. The Chiefs have another explosive offensive performance. Patrick Mahomes has another good day, but probably not 6 touchdown passes. Maybe he'll have 4 touchdown passes and then Kareem Hunt punches one in. But I just don't know. The 49ers are a young team. They're banged up on defense. The Chiefs are the hottest team in the league right now. I don't know how San Francisco can go into Kansas City in their home opener and escape with a win. If they did, it would be huge for them, just given the way the Chiefs are playing. But I think the 49ers are just too banged up on defense right now, and I think the Chiefs are just too explosive.
Yeah, I just jotted down a couple different scores, and now I'm trying to figure out which one I want to pick. But I think I'm going to go Chiefs 40, 39ers 32, somewhere in that range. I'm with you. I don't know that Patrick Mahomes is going to throw that many touchdowns again, but I think that the Chiefs are going to be juiced up to be back at home. But their defense is still really iffy, and so I think it's going to end up being another shootout, which, I've gotten 2 weeks in a row, pretty much two shootouts, so I'm ready for a season of that. I covered OU before this. I'm ready for that Big 12 offense and Big 12 lack of defense. I feel very much at home covering this team. Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you calling in from California, and we'll see you in Kansas City later this week. Hope you get a lot of barbecue, a lot of whatever else you find in Kansas City. I'm sure the food will all be great.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And I've been told to try Oklahoma Joe's. I've never been to Kansas City before, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, I would do Oklahoma Joe's and Q39.
Sounds great.
It's also really good, so I highly recommend that.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.